Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's live stream. And Rhonda Anstead, and I'm looking forward to talking about one of the foundations of my work, and that is using your strengths in uh, as the foundation of your career. And so I really, my background is in social work. And in social work, we have something called a strengths-based approach. And that is where instead of coming in and trying to fix problems and make people better, you start with where people are naturally proficient, competent, and and with the stuff that where they feel that they've got efficacy and power. And so as I became a career coach, I've brought that perspective into my work as, guiding and strategizing with people about their careers. And so I see strengths in a couple of different ways. And I've talked about this before. And one is that it's what you're innately good at. So we all have different kinds of hard wiring in our brains that might make us more or less good at interpersonal relations, good at logical thinking, good at designing structures, being organized, being creative. So these are just different aspects of being human that we all have more or less of. And when we have more, that's considered a strength. At the same time, I take that one step further because there's some things that we might be good at that we might not particularly enjoy that much. And so when I'm talking about a strength, I'm generally talking about something that you are both innately good at and that brings you joy when you do it. And so it's a very subjective thing. It's not necessarily a skill, which is something that you learn and can get better with over time, although it can be. But really what we're looking at is where can you build your career on something that you are both good at and that brings you joy. Okay, so I'm going to assume that most people watching this have an idea of how do they identify their strengths. There are a lot of different assessments out there. There's, something called Strengths Finder, which is exactly what it says. But a lot of career assessments also look into what are your strengths. And so where the leap often doesn't happen is turning your strengths into a job or a job title. So for example, say I'm good at writing. Does that mean that I need to become a writer? Or can my strength at writing be used in different jobs? And how will I know what those jobs are? So what I want to spend today looking at is how my career design studio helps with that process. So what I want to do is basically start out with how does my career design studio work with strengths? How do you identify them? And then what happens after that? And so I'm just looking at one of my colleagues has worked on this particular profile. And so I just want to go through a little bit about what she selected and then what you can do in a similar place. So my career design studio does have a career assessment, and that career assessment gives you multiple results. It gives you personality results, preference results, and interest results. And so the personality results are based on the biology of personality. And I talked about that in a previous live stream. And so I'm stopping myself because I get so excited about this. I'm like, okay, we're not talking about personality, Rhonda, we're talking about strengths. But what the results give you is this, work-related strengths. So depending on your highest score in these 4 different kinds of personality, the adventurer, the pillar, the achiever, the connector, it gives you the options to take a look at the ones where you're the strongest and choose strengths based on that. And this is not going to be every single strength that you have, but it is just one way to kind of think about what are the things that I'm best at. And so there are some people where their scores are so similar that it doesn't give you the options to choose your work-related strengths because it doesn't break it down. And so if you're one of those people where your scores are all really similar, you might not see much on this page, and that's okay. Basically what that means is one of your strengths is the ability to be strong in a lot of different areas. And so then we've got a couple of different other ways of looking at that. But back to the personality results, you want to just kind of go through and, just like this person did, select what makes the most sense for you. Select the challenges that are the most difficult for you. And then go through and look at your abilities. And so abilities and skills, these are things that are a part of a larger system and way of thinking about careers that I want to explain a little bit more. So basically, it's going to seem a little bit more abstract and esoteric, like solving problems by applying general rules. So this doesn't really trip off the tongue, but it is useful to spend some time thinking about what are these things here that I am good at. And so again, if you don't have anything that really shows up strongly here, my preference results will give you another way of looking at your strengths. In addition to strengths and challenges and skills and abilities, we have something called career design essentials. And career design essentials are really more about what you want in your job. And so again, as you go through this, select everything that works, that relates to you. So your career design essentials, your work-related strengths, challenges, and then work context. So what are the kinds of work situations that are a good fit for you, where you can really do your best? And then the work style is what you bring to the equation. So are you someone that really likes to analyze information? Are you someone who, where your reliability and your responsibility and your dependability is something that you want to bring to the table? And not even something that you want to bring to the table, but what you naturally do. And then same with interest. You'll have kind of your top interest results. You've got your strengths and your career design essentials, as well as activities and skills. And so all of these feed into the strengths and challenges activity. And so what you start out with is what you've chosen up until now. And so these are some things that I think are really useful to go through and understand, how do I use this particular strength in my life? And how do I want to use it in my job? And what do I really want to use? And so, for example, we've got the ability to create systems and models to achieve objectives. So now you've got the ability. is that something that you want to be doing on a regular basis? So those are the things that are going to be really helpful in understanding what kind of jobs and careers are a fit for you, not just what you can do, but what you want to do. So then kind of where we translate your strengths into job titles is in the napkin sketch. And the napkin sketch is the area where you kind of like try on new ideas. So if we're really talking about kind of like the artist and the design component, first you've got your raw materials, that's who you are and what you're good at. And then the napkin sketch is, how could this all come together? So this is where you play around and explore with different ideas. And so we start with the career design essentials. So that's everything that you've said is really important to me in my job. And I want you in this place, just let this be your brainstorming area. So as you're reading through this, if you're like, oh, yep, some other things that I want. So for example, this tool does not specifically ask you, what kind of salary do you want to make? What are your work hours? And so that could be something that you put here is, make $100,000 a year, or, to be able to live in a major metropolitan area, or the opposite, I want to live on a secluded island. And so some of the things that are unique to you, but important to you, that's where you put those. So then in my career design priorities, this is where we go from the, here are all the things that I can do. What are the things that are most important to me? So this starts with the career design essentials. And so what you want to do, you have 5 have-to-haves. So these are the things that if you do not have them, you will not be able to thrive and succeed in that workplace. That is really the crux of the have-to-haves. And so these are the deal breakers. So again, often we want everything. And when we want everything, that means that we can often get nothing, or not exactly what's most important. And so when you're really designing your career, you want to focus on what is the most important first. Everything else is cake. But after we've got the career design essentials, we've got these 5 different areas that the work activities, skills, abilities, context, and style. And these are all connected to a database called ONET Online, which breaks down thousands of jobs by work activities, skills, abilities, context, and style, among many other things. But these are the things that my career design studio really focuses on. And so you want to do the same exact thing and this. And out of all the activities that you have, what is most important for you to use on a regular basis? So this person is translating information and explaining how it can be used, workplace communication, providing consulting and advice to others, using goals to prioritize, organize, and accomplish work, and develop educational programs and teaching others. So this is her have-to-haves. It would be great if she could use new information and evaluating results to solve problems. And it'd be icing on the cake if she can design and create new applications, ideas, or products. But if she does not have the ability to provide consultation and advice to others, she is not going to be ultimately happy at her job. And so the same thing with skills. And these are the, really what you want to be using on your job. So solving problems, adapting technology, using logic, those are what you're good at. But what we're doing here is then, so what do you want, what is most important for you to do at your job? So we're really starting to refine your strengths from what you can do to what you want to do. Abilities is just, a little bit more abstract. So arranging things or actions in a certain order or pattern. But again, these are kind of some of those innate aspects of your personality that you're naturally good at. And so that's basically, we've got the work context, we've got, the work style, and all of those, again, you're just winnowing it down to what is most important to you. So one way that my career design studio helps you to translate your strengths into job titles is to basically help you think through this process. And so then you've got a really nice list of what is most important to you. And I'm going to talk about what databases and online research can do. But when you're designing your career, one of the most important things is to talk to people. And so one thing, if you really don't know, if you have no idea what you want to do, one thing that you can start out with is, turning this into a list and talking to people with expertise in different industries. Maybe it is a career professional like myself, or maybe it's just someone who has a ton of experience, and say, these are the things that are most important to me. What kind of jobs allow me to do these things? So then you get different perspectives than what you might think of at this moment. Because when we think about careers and jobs, we only know what we know. And so if we're not exposed to a lot of different options, then our starting point with what we can do is automatically much more limited than what the reality is. And the other benefit of doing this is that this points you into ideas and job titles that might be very niche, that there might not be a whole lot of data out there, and might be specific to an industry that doesn't relate to other fields. And so you're really gaining a lot of knowledge when you use your priorities to talk to people. That's what I recommend that you do first. Now, since my career design studio is an online tool, then we also tap into some online resources. So I mentioned ONET. So if you go to my exploration, this page gives you things that fit you from what you've selected so far. And so this again is a very strict database. And so it doesn't have a lot of nuance. So I don't want you to look at this and say, okay, well, obviously, since it says I should be a mortician, then I guess I should be a mortician. That is not what this is saying. This is saying, based on what you selected, these are jobs that let you do that. And then you've got to use your own expertise and self-awareness to say, okay, this is something that I would actually be interested in. These other things, not so much. But it also gives you an opportunity to be like, okay, recreation workers, what is that? And so then ONET, so if you click on the link, then that opens up ONET. And so then you have an understanding, okay, recreational activities with groups, public, private, volunteer agencies, and different job titles. So even though, recreation worker might not be what this is advertised under. Maybe it's activities director instead. And, but then you go and you can find out, all right, this is what I would be doing. And so it displays the top 5. If you want the details, then you've got a whole lot of stuff. And this is the entire universe of what recreation workers typically do. But then you can also go down to skills and get an understanding of like, okay, why is this something that that this is recommended? All right, so yes, I've got the service orientation, the speaking, those kinds of things, the abilities, and they might not be in the top 5. It might be, but it's going to be somewhere on here that what you have prioritized is something that this job uses. So basically, those are the ways that you can start translating your desired strengths, the strengths that you enjoy using, into job titles. And the one other thing that I want to say, okay, so we've got, let's take something that she actually selected. So training and development management. And so she has decided, yeah, this is something that actually I would want to do. And then what I want to recommend doing next is, if you keep scrolling down, you can actually find jobs on the web. And so I'm just gonna select my zip code. And so this is Career One Stop. This is a governmental database. You also can use something like Indeed or Monster.com or something like that. So let's see. They're unable to find job. So let's try Indeed. I bet there's jobs here. Yep. So this actually lets you use Indeed. So that's pretty cool. Learn something new every day. So then we've got Manager of Training and Development at Bowie State. And so what you can do here is when you're actually looking at jobs, there is another activity in under my career design, fit with career design elements. And so what this allows you to do, it gives you everything that you said is a have to have in one list. And then we've got our nice to haves and our icing on the cake. And so what you can do is then compare this job description with your career design essentials. And then just go through, and so just say, actually you could just copy and paste, Manager of Training and Development, Bowie State, and then from what you can tell, does this let me encourage me to conceptualize new ideas, projects, or programs? So it seems like that's a yes. I don't know if it's a collaborative, supportive environment. I don't know if it lets me, learn and grow as a person. But as you go through this, and just go through yes, maybe, no, and then it gives you a score that you can use to compare to other jobs. So it might be other jobs with the same job title. It might be completely different jobs. But this then helps you make good career decisions and to let you know if this is actually going to be a good fit for me. And that's really the whole purpose of career design, is to find that fit. So what I encourage you to do is to, if you haven't taken the career assessment on my Career Design Studio, to go ahead and do that. get an understanding of your strengths and abilities, and then just start seeing which jobs are going to build on your strengths. One last thing before we go, and this is something that I think is really important. We often, when we're making our career decisions, we ask ourselves, can I do this? And if the answer is yes, I can do this, then we're like, okay, I'm going to apply for it. And what this process, what career design does, is it switches that to, do I want to do this? And the reason why this is so important is because the can I do this? We're not necessarily working from our strengths when we can do something. That's what leads to burnout. So for example, I have done project management before. I can do that, and I have done it, and I've done it reasonably well. But it requires a level of organizational skills and logical thinking that is not natural to me. And so the more I do that, the less energy I have, because it burns up so much. And that's one thing to think, another way of thinking about a strength, something that's easy for you to do, that you could just drop of a hat, go for it. And so at the end of a day, instead of tired, you actually might feel energized. That is really the foundation of strengths, the things that build you up instead of knocking you down. And that's why thinking in terms of, do I want to do this versus can I do this, sets you up for success in a way that the other perspective doesn't. There are a lot of things that you can do and do reasonably well. But how do you feel at the end of the day? If it's exhausted, if it's demoralized, then you are not working from your strengths, and that's what needs to change. So I hope that this was helpful and got you thinking about how you want to design your career going forward. Please leave me any questions in the comments, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week.